Welcome, everyone. We are here today for class 28D on how to chant the Sanbutsuge. So I am Reverend Ellen Hamada Crane. Some of you know me from my previous classes, and I'm glad to be back here with you again. If you have done the courses up to now, then you may recall doing course 20D, which was how to chant the Juseige. And some of what I talked about in that course I will be repeating again because some of those same things do apply in the same way that they did before. So, and it's always probably a good idea to review things every once in a while. If you're like me, forget things pretty often. So repetition is always a good thing. So today is class 1. There will be 3 classes, and in this first class we will answer these questions: why we chant, and also why we chant the Sanbutsuge. So we'll talk about a little bit of the history and kind of give some context to the Sanbutsuge and try to understand why it's important for our Shin Buddhist practice and why we do chant it pretty regularly. So let's begin. And the first thing I wanted to talk about, which I mentioned also in the Juseige class, is why we chant. So in that course, I mentioned that there are 3 reasons that we do chant, and they are that chanting has a meditative aspect to it. It also has a ritual aspect to it, and it also has a learning aspect to it. And each of those are really important purposes for chanting. So let's begin, first of all, with explaining what the meditative aspect is. And what Reverend Turner and I like to think of chanting is meditation in sound. You are familiar with silent meditation, where you basically sit on the floor or sit in a chair and you just quietly sit and try not to move, and your thoughts come and go. And it is a very valuable practice that we have incorporated into our Shin Buddhist practice here in America. But chanting is an ancient practice. It has been done for millennia. And one of the aspects that we really like to emphasize in chanting is this meditation aspect. When you are chanting, you are basically not supposedly thinking of anything else. You are focusing on chanting, being in the present, being very in the moment. And that is a very valuable aspect that we emphasize in our Buddhist practices. So chanting has that aspect to it. I also mentioned the last time that as a child I didn't really enjoy chanting, didn't really like it, didn't understand why we did it. These were nonsense sounds to me. But as I've gotten older and I've gotten to understand the reason why chanting is important, I've really come to appreciate it and do enjoy chanting a lot now. So the second aspect that we use chanting for is the ritual aspect. And that's mostly what I was familiar with. I didn't think of it as meditative when I was a child, but I knew it was a ritual that we engaged in every single week that we had services. So that part of it is important because it becomes a part of our Shin practice. It's a way that we share in an experience or an activity together. It is a way to physically manifest the idea of oneness. When we are chanting in the Hondo, in a large group with the Sangha, it is a very unifying and defining experience. And so from that standpoint, rituals have a really important purpose. It connects us to each other, and it identifies us as in a very vocal and obvious way that this is our Shin Buddhist practice. So from that standpoint, it is really important. And then the last aspect that I mentioned was the learning aspect of chanting. And that actually requires a little bit more of outside study and learning. Each of the chants that have ever been written have deep meaning to them. And unless you spend time to study the characters and go over the meaning of what the chant is actually saying, then you pretty much don't know what it is that you are doing. So that requires a little bit extra outside study and investigation. And we encourage people to do that. I know in our service books, we do have translations of many of the chants that we do. And it requires, spending some time besides the chanting period to go over that. And that's some of what we will be doing with this course.